Writing a good beginning is the first step to having someone read your book. If you don't hook them at the start, then they're most likely going to put the book down and move on. For obvious reasons, we want to avoid this at all costs. So let's get down to it. How do you write a killer beginning? Welcome back to Hopeful Happenings. Today we're talking about how to write an awesome beginning. Now, first of all, a lot of writers freeze up when they see a blank page. They feel like it has to be perfect right away. Well, guess what? It does not. What you need to do is start writing your story, whether it's your intended beginning or not, and just go back and fix it later. You're probably going to discover a lot of things about your characters, their mannerisms, their dialogue habits, as you write, so it will actually be easier to go back and fix up the beginning after you've written an entire draft, because you could have morphed your story or your plot as you went along. Now, there are three main things that you'll need to hook the reader in the beginning, preferably the first page. Aside from having an amazing first line to hook the reader, your first page and most definitely your first chapter need to have 1. Change. 2. Starting in the middle of the action. And 3. Make the reader wonder something. Starting with change. If you've read any story ever, you'll realize that it always starts with a change. Once upon a time, there were 3 bears, and then Goldilocks came along. The change isn't just anything. It has to be a change that creates a conflict. It can be a small conflict, like your protagonist finding a letter they don't understand. But that small conflict is going to build up and lead to the climax. Now, number 2 is starting your story at an exciting part. Don't be afraid to start your story right in the middle of action. Do not give any backstory. Backstory is a sure sign that you're an amateur. You do not want to just dump a bunch of backstory at the very beginning of your novel, because then you haven't hooked the reader, you haven't grabbed their interest, and they're going to put down the book. So make sure that you do not put backstory in. Only give as much information that we need to understand the scene that we're in and the one that we're going into. So you can filter in backstory along the story, but you don't want to dump it all at the beginning, and you only want to give as much as is needed to further the plot. Now, number 3 is make the reader wonder something. There has to be some missing information that will make the reader curious and want to read on. Here's an example. Mother died today, or maybe yesterday. I can't be sure. How many questions are going through your mind when you read that? The missing information creates curiosity in the reader, and they will keep reading because they want answers to their questions. Now, just be careful. It's important that as you create mystery, that you don't leave too much unanswered. Readers really need to feel grounded in the context before they feel comfortable moving in on a focus. Now, on top of hooking the reader, a good beginning will introduce the character's personality, they will introduce the setting, and they will let you know what kind of story you are reading. Is it horror, romance, comedy? You don't have to answer all of these questions in the first sentence. However, you should answer them in the first page or 2. Otherwise, the reader will be confused and disoriented as to where they are and what's going on. And while we're on that note, let's quickly talk about things that you should not put into a beginning. Don't start your story too early. Okay, how are you supposed to know if you're starting it too early? Well, if it takes a while to get interesting, then everything up to the interesting part needs to be cut out. I actually wrote an entire first chapter and then I ended it on a cliffhanger, and it wasn't until later after I reread it that I realized I actually needed to start the story at the cliffhanger, and that whole first chapter ended up going in the garbage. But hey, it was so worth it, and it's so much better now. So let's recap. Great beginnings start with change, they start at an exciting part in the story, and they make the reader wonder something. They also establish character, setting, and genre within the first couple of pages. So there you have it, guys. That's everything you need to know to have an amazing beginning. I do advise that you write your story, just go on and write it. Like, don't even care about anything. And then as you come back, that's when you're gonna construct your beginning based on these principles. It will be so much easier if you do it that way. Good luck and happy writing!